This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Focus On call. This time, this edition number 6, we'll have the pleasure of receiving the Data Insights Core Unit, where Tadeo, Piotr, and Tomek are going to be, and Leo, sorry, are going to be explaining a bit more what they do, how they provide value to the community and other core units, and potentially discussing some of the updates to the budget. Yeah, just as an introduction for those that don't know me, my name is Juan, the facilitator of the Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling Core Unit at MakerDAO. And if anyone has any questions, please intervene politely. We'll have a lot of time at the end. But if there's something you would like to say and it's relevant, you can potentially interject. I don't think that the guys at the Data Insights Core Unit will mind too much. So yeah, if you want to take it away, guys.
Okay, guys, so let me start. Hi, I'm Tomek. I'm the facilitator of Data Insights Core Unit. First of all, thanks to our friends from SES to make it happen. So it's good to have you all here, and we'll try very briefly discuss our mission, our strategy, our products, our plans. We have a short presentation. It shouldn't take longer than like 30 minutes maximum. Then hopefully we'll have some time for questions and any discussion that you want to have. So Tadeo, if you can please advance the slide for me because you are controlling this. Yeah, the next one maybe. Okay, so our mission is to make the data that we produce as a protocol, as a DAO, available for everybody. As you know, the protocol generates tons of data, but it's quite complex. It's not that simple to use, and our mission is to make it accessible, to remove the complexness from this, to transform it in a way that can be used, analyzed, and utilized by people, even without deep knowledge about the complexities of blockchain data. And how we approach this, how we do it, first of all, we use lots of sources of on-chain and off-chain data. Then we control the quality of the data to be sure that the data is correct, that we have everything. We integrate those sources together, and then we use protocol semantics to create enriched and contextualized data sets, which means that we are transforming the raw data into something that is much easier to use. And instead of like working with transactions and events, you have business actions like opening vault or generating debt or bidding in auction. And this data, those data sets, we share using many channels. For different users, we utilize different channels of sharing this data. We will come back to this later and give you a few examples. Basically, it's through database sharing using something that's called Snowflake. It's the cloud data warehouse that we use for storing and sharing the data that we have. We have a set of dedicated APIs we've built, and we are going to build more dedicated GUIs for users. And we constantly try to work with people, empowering them by giving ad hoc support, creating trainings, documentation, so helping people using the data that we have. So Tadeo, if we can go to the next one. Yeah, so let me very briefly introduce our team. I'm Tomek. Piotr and Tadeo are data engineers, and Leo just joined us a few days ago. He's full stack engineer and will help us to extend the scope of things that we do. So at this moment, there are 4 of us. And yeah, I think that's for the brief introduction. So Tadeo, handing over to you. You can continue more about our products.
Great. Thank you, Tomek. Great. We wanted to give really an overview of the products and services that we provide to the community, as we realize that it's important not only to build them, but also communicate them. So as an overview, our main way to share the data, as Tomek mentioned, is through an API. This is really well suited for technical users and application integrations. You can bring it into your scripting or your application whenever you programmatically, therefore make it fairly easy. And again, you don't really need to worry too much about maintenance. We handle all of that. We're constantly improving the API, including their documentation. So it's something that we'll see later on. For less technical users, we provide this data through Google Drive and Google Sheets, again, making it accessible to everyone. And then finally, for more the casual users, but I think the community in general, we also provide GUIs and dashboards because it allows people to read quite quickly, get all the insights with simply like very little time. We'll also talk about that later. And then particularly something I want to focus on is the add-on request. This is our core mission, is to really empower the community through the use of data, no matter what skill levels they have. So we're always very interested in collaborating with that being core units, delegates, partners, and committee members to help them create their analysis or their projects that are data related. So we'll go a little bit through all of these. If you have any questions, please let us know. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. Main thing that I want to communicate is we do have a website, very simple, built on Notion, where we try to aggregate all the work that we do. So if you bookmark it, you should be able to get quick access to any data insights that you find. We also want to expand this to include the dashboards from our other teams and other community members, really to create a central repository for data-related stuff around Maker. You also find things that may be particularly interesting to you is the public roadmap that we keep up to date, where you can get all this information. And particularly for the API, if anyone's new to it, I would like to have a quick walkthrough. We provide a kind of like a how-to guide as well there, including all the different changes we make throughout the time. And lastly, we don't currently have office hours, but we put in all this to your disposal, all these different contact channels that you can have us. We're always very active on the forum, on Discord, and you can always book a meeting whenever you want with us. So now I'll hand it over to Piotr.
Hi, I would like to just give you a brief overview of the data set that we create, maintain, and constantly update. We try to cover all essential topics for the DAO and for the community. So you'll find in our repositories data sets that are related to votes. And this is basically the most complex set of data, of tables, views, and all other cool stuff. We also are covering liquidations 2.0 that was introduced in the previous year. There's also a data set that covers surplus auctions, so all the basic informations, including bids and all the deals, so you can track down all the activity and get basically actually know like all information that you would like to get. Other than this, we support governance, and I mean by this that we provide whole history of voting and including polls and executive votes, so you can just go and deep dive into the whole process of voting and see what was the support for any executive. And also we recently added a data set that presents the basically whole history of protocol parameters. You can get any information, what was the value of any protocol parameter, any given protocol parameter at any point in time. We constantly update what we already have, and we are trying to deliver it in the most usable form. So you can also get from us a snapshot of vaults at any point in time, or you can like check what was the vault state at specific time. So this is it. We are constantly adding stuff to the data sets. So if you guys have any requests, just reach out to us and we would be happy to add more cool stuff to our data sets. We can go for the next slide. Okay, so this is just a snapshot of, and like on the high level of what we can deliver. So we recently added the information about vault's origins. So we can see what apps or third-party apps were used to create a vault. We can also display a any particular protocol parameter on a timeline. This is what we see on the bottom is the debt ceiling for ETH collateral, and on the left-hand side, it's a super simple chart that shows how many ETH was deposited and how many ETH was withdrawn from the protocol. A simple metric, but pretty hard to get when you don't have all the data in the database. So this is it. We have like tons more of cool stuff. So if you guys need any data, just reach out to us. Thanks, and we can move on to next slide. So this is probably, I'm muting now.
Okay, so this is going over all the APIs that we have. And so as Tado had mentioned earlier, we're constantly adding and updating these. If you go on the website where we have a redoc documentation page set up, you can see all of the information that has to do with how often it's updated, where to contact us if you have any requests or anything along the likes, rate limits and whatnot, and then we can get all different information ranging from governance to vault liquidations to vault details themselves, protocol parameters to a few of the experimental endpoints we currently have. And so, yeah, we're constantly revising and adding more to these, and more can be added per request. Yeah, and so in Fast API, there's also a Swagger UI to like view the documentation and the specifications.
Awesome. And also to add that we're currently being used by by Go Alpha as a backend service for the new up and coming protocol parameters webpage. So that's also a service that we can provide to the community members. Next up is Google Sheets. Again, in our effort to make data as accessible as possible, we provide any of these data sets that we've been mentioning through this interface. As you can see from the screenshot, most of these things are related when servicing this specific request that we have from them. We put it up there and we set up schedule refreshes so the data is always up to date. Again, we're very happy if a community member is not able to access certain data. We're very much happy to create this data pipeline specifically to service and expose that. Next up is the graphical user interfaces. So here we're maintaining and we build and maintain two main web apps, one for governance and the other one for vaults. Here you get an overview, and I'll give you the example for vaults, where you can see on a collateral type on ilk level, you can see the general numbers, metrics related to it. You can drill down to see individual vaults, and then when you drill down into the vaults, you can actually get to see all the different actions or events that happen to that vault. So you can track all this through time. All throughout this web apps, you have the possibility of filtering as well as exporting to a CSV exactly what you're seeing. So again, making it as easy as possible to people to interact with the data. We also don't shy away from using other dashboarding tools for specific programs. We've actually used Tableau and Data Studios. Again, it's really just in the service of the users, exactly what they're most comfortable interacting with. We can definitely adapt to that. And that was kind of like the talk about what we've been working on, the different tools that we have available. Just on that, we recently published, I think a couple hours ago, a review of the last period, including all the work that we've been doing. If there's anything of interest in there, please reach out to us. And now for the future. We want to keep supporting the protocol and its different endeavors. We see two main challenges ahead of us. One is layer 2s, onboarding those data sets in and being able to bring full visibility to the community for all the chains that Maker will eventually deploy. And then the other is real-world assets. Here is really bringing what we're used to in Web3 of data availability at all times and at quite granular level, trying to onboard as much data from real-world assets as possible. As some of you may know, in traditional finance, this is quite lacking. Usually you end up dealing with PDF files and quarterly numbers. We're going to be working with the different real-world asset stakeholders to create a framework and implement that framework in order to make it possible for us to scale up and, as an example, bring monitoring tools for the entire community on real-world assets. Then there are big thing for us is we still want to continue the work that we've been doing. We really believe that by creating tools, we can empower users to gain more insight and be more independent. So we're looking into building specifically analytical tools for people to be able to interact more easily with data. Something that we've been looking at is a couple of tools that can allow you to do drag and drop, similar to Tableau, drag and drop table building based on SQL with a mixture of that and UI. Bringing that to, again, make it easier for everyone to interact with that data. We're also reaching out to external partners to see what support or collaborations we can create with them to, again, have Maker-related data everywhere in the ecosystem. And then two new data sets that we have in the roadmap that we're really excited about, and I think will have a big impact, is both the DAI and MCare usage. Things that I think we see from other places. I would like to contribute to that. And I thought it was finished, but I'm not. Another big point I want to mention again is the public roadmap. We're keeping this up to date, so you can see what upon work we haven't come up, and also details on the stuff that we built before. We're actually looking into switching this into a tool that will allow community members to directly give us feedback on the roadmap and kind of create more of like a living document where people can do requests on the roadmap directly. Again, I think here we're kind of creating the building blocks, and it'll be interesting to see what other things we can come up in the future. And now, yes, that was kind of the end of our presentation. We thank you. I would like to remind you that we currently have both a new mandate and budget up for request for comment. So we'd love to hear feedback from you and the community. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear them.
Nice. I'll break the ice until people start getting more comfortable. Yeah, for my first question was for the non-technical user, what's the easiest way to access the data? Is it going to your website and seeing what data sets you have, or what would you recommend?
I think initially that would be the first step. I highly recommend, I guess for a non-technical user might be interested in either governance or vault data, go into our trackers. I think they're fairly good and well explained, and they're able to easily download data to work with it. I would say start from that, and then again, anything that you can see in the API documentation that you might be interested in, and simply don't know how to interact with the API, we'll be happy to either help them interact with the API or simply do that extract for them through Google Sheets.
Perfect. Is this data open to the community outside of MakerDAO, or is it permission that you need like an I don't know, like some kind of code or password to access it, and you would give it to any core unit that requests that?
No, it's actually, we're striving to make it as permissionless as possible. Currently, the API is open registration. You simply, you can create a user yourself and start using it. With Google Drive, we're fairly sure it's fairly open. If I don't have the link on Notion, I should update that soon enough. But no, our objective is really to create a public good that can be enjoyed by anyone in the community of Maker and outside of it as well.
And this
one
question,
comment, one additional comment here. The difference is for getting data directly from the Snowflake database. This is for very technical users, but this enables you to build any query that you want, even very, very complex things, and even integrate the data with your own data sets if you have any. And this channel, it requires setting up your own Snowflake account, which up to a certain point is free. But then if you want to continue building very, very complex queries, then you have to pay for Snowflake subscription, which is completely outside of our reach. It's like paying directly to Snowflake for using their processing power. And this is the only exception when you have to do something on your side to set up the free Snowflake account to access this data. And if you continue using this very heavily, then at one point you will possibly need to buy a paid subscription, because the free tier enables you to use only limited computing power on this. But all APIs, all GUIs, everything else is free and completely permissionless.
I was going to ask on the cost side, do you also, I mean, potentially you have to run like an archive node to get access to the blockchain. So how do you manage those costs and make sure that they are transferred properly to?
We are buying the on-chain data from external companies, so we are not running the infrastructure to get it by ourselves. Okay. It's just a fixed cost of getting the full history of the blockchain data. So we are not limited in anyhow, so we can build any like data sets on top of this, but this lowest technical layer is outsourced externally, so we don't manage this. It's not only a question of costs, it's a question of effort required to maintain your own nodes. We tried to avoid it and rather outsource it. So we are just getting the raw source data.
Got you. Frank?
Yeah, hi guys. Frank Cruz, 3F delegate. A couple of questions. I noticed you have been posting on the forum about the possibility of working with the RWF team on doing some reporting, perhaps a data dashboard. So I was wondering, how do you envision this? Is this something where anybody can go on this dashboard and get an analysis on a monthly basis as far as RWA asset originators are lending and how much they're collecting, how many of the loans are in default, maybe they're 30 days late, 60 days late, et cetera. Is that how you're envisioning this dashboard?
Yeah, that's correct. We still need to build the foundations with them and the design. There's a very important aspect here about personal identify information and information that cannot be shared publicly. We need to find a way, create a process that separates that and really exposes the data that is valuable and can be shared publicly. And then in an ideal scenario, we'd be sharing as much data as possible for each type of deal. Here will vary between the asset type and the originator themselves. And also in part of this framework is actually setting this as a requirement for our originator partners to be able to provide this data. And hopefully we get to aggregate it higher levels to give any point of view that you're looking for. So let's say, I think from a high level perspective, have the entire real-world assets initiatives all together. And if you wanted to deep dive into a specific asset type or asset securitization, you should be able to. Again, also always be able to pull the raw data from it as well for your own analysis.
Got it. And I would imagine that's going to take some time to build out and obviously get some of that that data sets into this dashboard. But I wanted to circle to the possibility of all this data you guys are gathering, especially for governance, and DAOs are obviously something that I think need to be obviously investigated, and the whole world is excited to see what exactly DAOs do as far as how to govern one and have success in having the governance of one. So with that in mind, with all this data that you guys are putting out there, like the MCD tracker, the voter tracker, that's pretty cool, I like it. Is there any way we can monetize this for the benefit of MKR token holders or MakerDAO in the near future? So I'm thinking about monetization of the data you guys are putting out there. So what's your thinking behind that?
Actually, we never discussed this. From the very beginning, we tried to create things that are public good and something that we as a DAO can share for free. But this data has value, and monetization of this is potentially interesting thing. But to be honest, it was never discussed.
Got it. And one last question for Leo. You work with the API of your core unit, right? So I'm thinking also further ahead, layer 2s are coming into the picture. Have you been doing any investigation into what Stocknet, what it's going to take for the API there? Because, obviously there's a difference in language. You go into Cairo, and I'm wondering what your thought process was with regards to capturing some, API data sets from layer 2s like Stocknet in the near future.
Yeah, so like we've had discussion about it, and it's on our roadmap for what needs to be like investigated and completed sooner than later. But I have not personally started writing anything for the Stocknet specifically. But
let me add to this that Stocknet is probably will be the first one that we will be able to add, because we already started working on at this moment working on the DAI in Stocknet. So very soon we will be able to show the data about the L2 DAI on Stocknet, and what's very important, about all cross-chain things like DAI in transfer between layer 1 and layer 2. So we are like in R&D process here, and it looks like for Stocknet we will be ready very soon.
But that's from layer 2 dApps, or that's just from DAI moving across the DAI bridge?
This is from looking at bridge and looking at layer 2 transactions. So we and messages, right? So we are getting all the messages sent from layer 1 to layer 2 and from layer 2 to layer 1, and also all layer 2 transactions. And using this, we are trying to recreate like the whole history of DAI in transfer and DAI on layer 2.
Got it. So I guess you'll be able to follow the money, so to speak, if there's a layer 2 compound version of compound, right? You'll be able to tell what users are doing. You'll be able to provide the data sets of what the unique users of a layer 2 like Stocknet are doing, correct? If I understood you correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. This is like our holy grail for this year. This is definitely what we will try to do, to extend everything that we do in layer 1 to layer 2 and be able to understand the usage of DAI on layer 2. And if one day MCD is implemented on layer 2, then also provide full analytics on layer 2 MCD implementation.
Got it. Very cool. Thank you. No further questions for me.
Right. Thank you, Frank, for the inquisition. Now I had a quick question regarding one of the graphics that you said open, like where the vaults were open, and I saw that one was MakerDAO. Was that like Oasis, or what does MakerDAO mean in that context?
Correct.
It was maybe I should have interrupted.
It's Oasis. Oasis web application.
Okay, just checking. Yeah, regarding the and if anyone has any questions, either raise your hand, write in the chat, or just jump in. But regarding the Tadeo mentioned that you're going to be trying to digitize the data coming from real world assets, and that might include a lot of PDFs. What's the plan over there? Is it I don't know, either hiring some solution to scan for documents, or is it more like outsourcing everything to some third world country? How are you planning on doing this?
That's part of the discussions that we need to have with the real world stakeholders. I think what we'll do is we'll pick first a originator to work with them, and then build that out with them with a short-term goal of onboarding their data, but also with a long-term goal of creating this framework. And then we'll iteratively learn from the new and newer originators. Again, I expect to see quite a wide range of, let's say, data quality, from simply data that's just simply the originator sends it simply incorrect, all the way to data that we can just tap directly into their systems and extract it ourselves. And then here we'll be supporting a lot the real world asset focused core units, as they'll be the ultimate judges of the quality of that data.
All right, so I guess that's part of the mandate, and there are a lot of unknowns on how the data will come and how you're going to deal with that.
Yep.
Perfect. And yeah, regarding the budget, there were a lot of concerns that were raised by the community members. I don't know if you guys want to address those or comment on that.
There's quite a few. We did answer them on the forum. If there's any additional tools, we'll be happy to talk about them. It's quite overreaching. We definitely our new revised budget does increase our scope, and therefore the budget itself. Something that we're trying to work with is this idea that we're doing a one-off budget proposal for an entire year where there's a lot of unknowns. And again, our work mostly responds to the needs of the protocol and the community. A lot of them are unknown at the moment, so we're trying to have that flexibility to be able to respond to them.
One of the comments was to potentially post like a budget to keep operations running and do this separate. Is that something that you're considering?
Yeah, actually, the way we design the budget, it kind of serves that purpose. We do have the expansion pool as a separate line. The idea here, so you could consider that being purely the expansion side of things. The idea here is really, while we are requesting for specific actions that we want to take, we also take into account that in response to the future needs of the protocol, we might need to switch, and maybe instead of hiring an additional member, we need to switch and maybe pay external partner to provide us, as you mentioned, for example, the example of being able to process PDFs. So that's why we're also keeping that line all together. And again, while the budget is less transparent in that sense because it's a single budget line, idea is that we support this with a quarterly financial report where we actually show the breakdown of where essentially that expansion funds end up going to.
Nice. Yeah, and regarding I think Tomek answered already in the forum, but maybe you want to comment on how would things look like if this budget gets voted down and things stay as they were voted 4 months ago. So what would that look like for MakerDAO?
It's a good question.
Probably the biggest problem will be like expansion to layer 2 and real world assets. This definitely requires a lot of work, and with the current budget, it will be hard to really extend the scope to this data. So we will mostly have to focus on maintaining things that we have, and by maintaining we mean like keeping up to date with all changes in the protocol, answering the user requests for new queries and new visualizations. But it will like limit our capabilities of extending the scope of data to all those new fields that we think are very important. So if we just keep the current budget, we will be able to maintain what we have, to follow all the changes in the protocol, to answer to other queries, but it will be hard to extend the scope to layer 2 and real world assets and all new things that probably we will future will bring. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So right now it seems that a lot of the new mandate involves real world assets and layer 2 where Maker is still not very present. So would you consider as a team waiting for this budget until Maker is there, or is it something that you want to start before for any given reason?
Well, the work really needs, I mean, we already started working on these things. While Maker will deploy and Stocknet in the future, the protocol itself needs to have that data visibility beforehand. With worldwide assets, because we still need to define the framework and actually define how we're going to be doing this, there's already a lot, let's say, time that we need to dedicate to this. In the meantime, what we call globally the ad hoc requests that we have, you can see in the financial review, is something that we're doing ongoing with other core units. We're currently been working with some core units, not all of them, and we're kind of hoping to also expand that to the other core units that are left there that we still haven't engaged with.
I'm assuming that Paper Imperium doesn't have access to a mic, so I'll read his question out loud, but he's asking if this gets voted down, would separate increases for L2 and real world assets be brought forward to separate them?
Yeah, so we are sure that this is very important for the future of the DAO. So for now, we will fight for this to keep it as it is and have this extension included in the new budget. If it gets voted down, then definitely it will come back. Either we will ask for this money very soon, or other core units will have to increase the budget to cover this, because without access to good data, it's really hard to maintain and to manage those new areas. So one way or another, this will be needed. So we believe that it's better to include this now in the budget and start working on this as soon as possible. If the governance decides to vote it down, it will come back one way or another. This is what we are very sure of.
Okay, nice.
Can I ask
So oh, go ahead, Kianga, sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm wondering, do you have data on who's using the data and metrics on, you know, kind of the use of, there's so many, as a non-technical person, there's like so many URLs and it's hard to know where information is or to find it. So I'm wondering if you have visibility on the visibility of your different websites and who's using the information. And I think Frank's question was really interesting to me about, you know, how could we monetize the information in some way or productize it even further. So I wonder if you have any stats you can share on any of those points.
So we have a couple metrics that we've been able to monitor. On one side, in the API, we can see when a new user is created. Again, here, because we don't enforce to have we ask for email, but not necessarily it needs to be a real email, or it doesn't necessarily need to be a work email, let's say. We can't be too sure where the real users are coming from in that sense. And then on the website, we are tracking. We've implemented metrics, like analytics metrics, like Google Analytics on the website, just to see a bit of the clicking around. But we're not identifying the users behind that. From our personal experience with the people that reach out to us through mainly Discord, we've seen a big focus on core units, also because we've invested in doing that communication to core units. And then we do get community members reaching out. Something that we want to change for this new period is doing more proactive communication to the wider community. One of the big points is we realize that not everyone reads the forum or has time to read the forum or what the new data sets we have brought out. So using our graphical interfaces to showcase that new data, as an example, the protocol parameters, we think that would be very valuable and kind of increase the engagement of people with our data.
Yeah, just to echo on what Kianga was saying, right now, so we know that some of the critical core units are using these services, for example, Risk, but it's hard for the wider community to understand who's using it and how. And potentially, is it like a public good that the whole DAO should fund, or is it each core unit that should reflect their costs in a true way and fund them internally? So I think that would be useful to have. I don't know if there are any other. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, no, just on your comment. We did discuss internally this idea of whatever services we provide to specific core units to charge them directly. Our main concern there is that we end up working for the core units rather than for the community at large. We like to still think that even when we're engaging with core units, we still do it. We're doing it on the benefit of the entire protocol and the community. So everything that we build with them, we're building something that we know will benefit the community and that we can actually expand over to the wider community. And another point that I would be worried about with the proposed change would be that new core units would be dissuaded from working with us because before knowing the benefits of working with us, they would need to be engaging in paying us or subtracting an amount from their budgets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to go deeply into public goods and the disadvantage of having them, but that's definitely a point to consider. But I'm not saying that it should be done either way. Do we have any other questions? Wallpaper and Frank already intervened. All right, I guess not. So guys, what's the best way of, well, you had this slide, best way of reaching you? I guess it's on Discord or the forum.
Yeah, absolutely. We're present in there. We have our public channel on Discord, and you can find all the members on the core unit. Also, they can DM us. Also very active on the forum as well, so we'll see a message. And then mainly, I think on the website, on the contact information, you can, again, if you don't want to do a public post, you can connect with us and book a meeting directly with us. So yeah. Happy to engage.
All right, great. So again, thank you everyone for joining. It was great having you, and let's keep the discussions going at forum.makerdao.com. Have a nice one.